Еще больше денег.
I suppose this the other key, but I'm not sure. When I see the number, kanske var att det är typ.
No, maybe not. I mean, because is it also for car? Because
It's the one that you don't place.
is it the one where the scissors or the dollars? I'm
Look,
fine.
no, I don't know what it is. Do you know what the word is? There's that. Yes, yes.
This is the first thing we'll see. If you think it's fine, the place then fine. I mean, I just
I think it will work. We'll go from there and we can try.
okay. It's okay. It's an exception, but it's okay. I just met Mikhail.
Still time for ice cream? Yeah, if you want ice cream. I would like one now before we start. Some ice cream? What do you have ice cream? I'm not sure exactly what that's like. Is one of your box? Yeah, it's one of the box. You also want ice cream? I think there's some with coffee, some with white chocolate at least, and maybe some with caramel. White Samtidigt som det och den där har du när jag säger gifta sig. Då tror jag att det kommer sitta och fundera på det här. När ritar vi upp de här husen? Ritar vi upp de här samtidigt? Eller tar vi den ner först? Och sen när du har den där, när det är bilarna, tar vi den ner först? När jag säger dig i början. Den här kommer. Och sen kan man ta den. Tar man den upp då och den upp då? Eller tar vi den upp när du har pratat om hur vi gör det? Och sen den upp när jag har pratat om?
Jag tänkte inte ta på den. Ja. Jag tänkte göra så att de är där. Sen kommer man upp den. Ja. Så går runt och tillbaka. Och sen när vi har snackat så är det bara sluta på väggen.
Ja, det blir snyggt. Det har vi faktiskt använt det faktiskt. Ja, det var lustigt. Bara i relates to Switzerland's case study. So first of all, I would like to introduce the jury members here. Ben Meister. Then Miguel Fermi. And last but not least, Tani Pavel. So first of all, we start with the proposal. And there will have tape. And we will show them. Okay. So the next slide.
So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to you. I represent the group for the Portuguese team lead for CS number 4, which we invited to Russia before. First, I'm going to present to you the future scenarios and development strategies that we do Russia for international status, and lastly, the strategies to limit the RZ expansion in Europe. So scenario number 1, let us assume that the conflict ends between Russia and India and international in general. So we can simply focus on the advances of the RZ in Europe. We do as well find long-term alternative routes to avoid future dependency on Russia to reach the east. That is carbon better routes, which we do not depend on Russia, so that if another conflict happens, we basically not be affected as well. Scenario number 2 is let us assume everything remains as it is in the current situation. So if we want to include the customers, because customers do not trust Russia as a investment. So our options is to offer economic incentives to companies wanting to trade with Russia in order to prevent the economic fallback. Other options include pressure over the European Union to resolve all right to the large nature of the sanctions. Of course, if the majority of the other companies, the Russian will be under defense. One of the drawbacks is that by doing that, the Union will be explaining weakness. However, it has already exhibited weakness by complying with the USA's sanctions. One last option that we assume for this scenario is to offer the management of the Union to find new clients and business opportunities for these current customers so that they can find new customers elsewhere and do not need to rely on Russia. If eventually the situation would get peaceful again, these customers will remember to extend clients and business volume. Scenario number 3, situation gets worse. More sanctions from both sides and harsher requirements to business. Options include reinforcing the economic incentives to their customers, using the managed consulting unit to find new clients for these customers, like I said before. Following the customers, we need to invest in Russia and change to a new target markets. And we can also start considering other Asian markets like India. One penultimate scenario is the situation gets even worse. For example, Russian boundary blockade located in Russia, we are forced to give up on Russia. The government will have to focus on foreign eastern countries, for example, like India, China, South Korea, Japan. The trading will follow the economy, so we need another route, south from Russia. Routes are already under construction, such as the gas sector, and the last business in the Trans-Asian Railroad. As you can see on the map.
First of all, for reasons from Europe, not passing to Russia to China, but also in this part, that as of course, by Russian state, and they will always be reach China, in order to stay in countries without using the
Also in this scenario, it has lots of unknown variables, like alliances between other countries, and long-term optimism to get involved in the infrastructures will still take quite a long time, and just 5 years. The last scenario is involved with us not think about it because it's a news that came out 12 hours ago, and it says Russia bans all US EU troops and vegetables in sanctions response, NATO fears invasion. This is completely both possible for the scenario what was the reason?
On the internet, we found this document published by IBC that says the acquisition of crypto is a logical step towards the development of the logistics business activity of the Russian railroad and promote the attractiveness of transit cargo flows through Russian sector. It sounds to us that IBC is interested in the market share of Europe. So some message strategies might be like aggressive acquisition of some targets, IBC targets, and prevent the expansion of IBC, and intensive direction on marketing activities where IBC have already started taking. And IBC is one of the partners in the Russian trade, so that some care has been taken when the rest of traffic is out.
The questions are only from us or from everybody? No. I have a question from one of the class who said more aggressive aggressive strategies are not justified. Can you say it with what you mean by aggressive strategy? Obviously, this is the aggressive. It's like playing directly against them. What you're doing and trying to like it, that's a good thing. If they're already arrived, we're trying to overtake them. One minute to do the
I thought we would have on after the presentation to
Hello everyone, it's Sevol, Evgeny, Margarita, and I am Anatoly. We are Team Ukraine, and let's begin.
Asian market growing fast, and this attracts
Okay, so we have a really good case because we have a really unusual situation in Europe. So we will try to explain what is actually going on here and what should be what happened in this situation. So as you know, like when we have a partnership with some people, for example, for business, we will have common rules which is easier to comply like from both sides. So if we want to do it, like for example, our partners from Russia, which are sometimes doing this business side, but sometimes now we can see that it is also avoid the international like documents. So can we really work instead? Actually, the unusual problem see that how very much of our partners, but not every, like really in the world that it is very close to each other and we need to work together. So right now, like European Union and Russia, and we get everyone country want to grow to have deliver peace, and so to grow fast. But we have one problem. There is a government situation and business, but we have a problem, but we have a different side of points of view. We have a government who wants to impose the sanctions, and we have a company who wants to do the business despite of everything. So it runs to the street between these two points of view. Yeah, sometimes like when you see domestic, there is a political side and even on political side, the European Union doesn't want the Russian doing what it used to, but from the economical side, we want to work. So this the conflict between the points of view when the government wants to stop it, but from the economical side we want to work. Is it really a problem or we can solve it? So it's not the time to become seriously, and we really need these problems in the future because we are searching for the Asian market, which is a really good strategy for the next generation. So we have two strategies how to deal with this situation. First is to become with one front. So if the government and business will become like one front, we can achieve really great results. Because when we have sanctions and when we have from the business side, we can bring the respect and fulfillment of initial obligations, which will help to work in the future. We combine the politics and business as a one part, and we will show the Russian side will show how it works. And our method serves these things. We want to work, so we need to show what we expect from them and what we can do. But we need to remember that they need to respect our vision. And we can contribute to the stabilization of the situation in Europe, and every country will have the possibility to work with the situation. So we can continue to work with the situation that we work. We can also keep in mind that this is just to work. So, but it can be will speak with the government, and so if the Russian side will see that the government doesn't want the trees and the business sector can do what they want. They will continue to do what they do, and in the future we will have more problems because if there is a situation like here now, in the future it will be even worse.
So we have to stay in this position. We become a role model for the European and European companies. And getting back in the business world, there is an opportunity with the one by the government and purchasing money instead of the government that is in a great aspect of composition to government and business. And here there is choosing what we take like this is a plan now, but it's going to be that. But choosing our strategy will be perfect in future like full time. So in conclusion I want to say that our benefits and in future can be also applied not only to British but also to Russia. So we will have stable and good project in Russia to the Ukraine.
Yeah, it's me. What do you mean with one from the
As we see that the European Parliament wanted to have the sanctions among the Russians. But for the business sector, it was not easier. Like if the sanction will happen, then many companies cannot work with the Russian side.
So you mean government and business?
Yes, and
One
the reason is that if they still work with Russia and find another solution to work with this, like Russian side, because if the business and political side is very close to it, and we cannot just avoid it. So we need to understand that politics and business are probably very hard, very important government, and we need to separate it and to So what the opportunity they can achieve if they have a common goals, both sides of
And they want to continue not being on the business development. It's also mean long-term business. Because my son come and works with Russia and another announcement that they don't work there. In this situation, maybe they cannot get position. So we wanted to provide some business programs or conference between the companies which can leverage together against this problem they want to solve and to make the relation with Russia in that way which will be suitable for companies inside Germany, inside European Union, understand companies in Russia or in the government will have answers. Because now it is difficult to maybe have some
For example, like you're like a representative of the business sector of your company and other companies, you will need to choose among them. You will stay with the government decision, with sanctions, or you will work with Russia. So what you will choose? Because if you will choose the Russia from the beginning, the government will understand that the business sector which is very key, can not like with them, the business and certain aid from the government. And they will actually see that it is the weakest link in the European Union and the political side. So when you are choosing the capacities, very easy to do it. Because, for example, if you still will work and Russia will see their power, you cannot see what will be in the future and how they will work with you when you will invest your money in them.
because Russia can
It's the same condition. It's not like Russia, because Russia is like just the country that is like now a case.
This is the relation. When one side see the weakness, they also provide conditions.
As you know, business and political.
Hello?
Could I ask you to already name tags in the company front, just so in case you super writes down and say, I want to give you a job, so you can know who you
Hello, dear viewers and friends. Today we are going to talk about Deutsche Bank, and I am Anna Duarte. I'm on as you know. And here's the agenda. We will introduce our project supervisors, general monitoring, thing that we've been through, and action plan, and our work with some other things. And here it is what onwards, as you can see, we have really more strengths and opportunities. We mix in between strong strengths and opportunities and get into the action plan, and we had the backup plan for the space too. As you can see from strengths, our company has good reputation and so on. And for the opportunities, in Russia, it's improving well in time. And according to the given information, it's like in between 10 or 15 years, it's going to be we have a chance to do a shareholder company.
The sort of in Russia is like this, and every time, the GDP percentage is decreasing also year by year. So Russia is economically saturated, is becoming economically saturated. So until then, until they are being satisfied with economically, we will continue working with RGB in safe conditions and work on great partnership with UPLC because of the satisfaction, reaching satisfaction, they have to open their self to other countries, foreign countries to invest in Russia. So,
why we are rather work with UPLC is the shortest route is certain one, as you can see here, and in UPLC we have Pincer, Russia and Belarus. So if we become a partner with UPLC, like DHL will do, we will be in a really huge advantage to use the southern route. Russia changed it all. I mean, when Russia started getting the opportunity for 100% of companies, they will establish a company with use the attention of the UPLC, and they will start playing with our own choice from Russia to China. And if Russia doesn't change the law, we will continue with the attention of the UPLC.
Yeah. As you see, for an action plan first, we are planning to go into RGB as usual and the same conditions because we are working with them nearly for a decade, as you see in this current position of the slot. And then we are going to create a partnership because, as my friends say, they are good at advantages of European partners. We are going to try to be partners with these companies, and then when it's politics, everything can happen. So we need to try a worst case scenario. Sometimes the tension increases between the leaders, and also in this condition we need to find a worst case scenario. In that scenario, we will go through and invest and start working on going to Turkey, to China, on Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Kazakhstan. Like there are also railroads like this. I'm going to go to the Hazar Sea and go there, and you can see that here the railway map.
And also, our partnership with the UPLC will have the worst period of the going to Kazakhstan.
Have you considered possible risk when establishing a company in Russia? Like one of your action plans, like establish a company in Russia, what are the risks or the legal obligations around it?
Actually, we considered it, and in the years, we say that when the Russia pays the law, so when we are able to open 100% DB there, then we are going to establish a company. Of course, if the political situation again occurs, and also, for example, blockage happens to the Russia, but it's a tiny legal possibility, then we may also go through the Turkey side as a worst case scenario. So we can change our plans back to that.
And this is a really long-term solution. We don't know when the law is going to be changed by Russia, but if we want it to be ready to change, we will start using our trains and we will restart the Russia.
Since we are going to the government law and they have to do it, but check the road railway map, and according to that, you can go to get license from here. Otherwise, you have to use the, you cannot use the railway.
Maybe can't find the truck, but truck road can go to the other road there.
It's fine. I just was wondering why. You use the railway map, that's why you use the actual road straight map. So do you have any more questions?
Next thing is Greece, and after that we'll be turning for Romania and Moldova.
Hello everyone, we are members of the Greek team. My name is Mario, this is Kostas, Alexandros and Vassilios, and this is a case study for Deutsche Bank. So you can see here our outline. We will analyze the problem and we will see our approach, which is based on two main scenarios. First of all, as you all know, the political situation in Russia is very critical due to the monopolized market and also due to the conflicts between Russia and the United Nations. This causes several threats to Deutsche Bank. So we decided to approach the problem using two main scenarios. The first scenario is about the elevation of Russia and United Nations relationship. And the second scenario is about the severe sanctions by the United Nations to Russia, which leads to economic war.
So, regarding our first scenario, as Marius mentioned before, we assume that the relationship between Russia and the United Nations will be alleviated and that there will be no further sanctions imposed to the Russian government. And now, about our strategy in that case. Firstly, we want to emphasize that the thing that our Deutsche Bank, our company wants to be the dominant logistics company in Europe. So, we have to move fast and before the crisis, but at the same time we want to continue the cooperation with their company regarding the Asia cargo. At the same time, we think that Deutsche Bank has to be part of EBEC and establish a company in Kazakhstan, which is a state with friendly conditions to foreign investment. In conclusion, we think that Deutsche Bank has to be part or establish a network that's about to connect Africa, Middle East, and Europe, and that's about to happen, of course, to our country, Greece.
How about the results of this strategy? Regarding the domination in urban logistics, there is an opportunity for Deutsche Bank to spread the influence in European railways and build an international network along the Europe and the major European railways. Regarding the cooperation with RSD for logistics, Deutsche Bank has the opportunity to maintain the connection with Russia and developing Asia, also China, who has a very limited growth last year. By becoming a part of UTLC, be able to be a part of leading the logistics organization between Europe and Asia, and by establishing a company in Kazakhstan, the Deutsche Bank will gain the advantage of customer union and having access to your Eurasian railways. By last but not least, invest in Greece. Greece, considering the recent liberalization of the market, and that Greece is a geographical intersection between Europe, Asia, and Africa, to be a very smart choice to have access to these three continents. As about the risks, the risks about possible aggressive action from Russia and as they consider that we want to dominate in Europe and have one foot in Asia. And also, there is perhaps unpredictable sanctions to Russia from the US and the EU because of unpredictable decision of the Russian government.
Now let's consider the second scenario, that economic transactions between Russia and Europe are blocked. Or let's rephrase it, is it possible for Russian bank to thrive in our world without passing through Russia? And yet it is possible, because there is China, and we can focus on China and the Silk Road. The Silk Road was the main road in 100 AD that connected Europe to China, and the areas in the Middle East were thriving. As you can see, China has an exponential growth in GDP, and unlike the quadratic of the Middle East and Central and Eastern Europe, and they have been to the moon. So I think that it's possible to go to China without passing from Russia. The indications to do something like this is that China's exponential growth in GDP, as I have said, Middle East will play key value. I mean, the USA wants to take control of the Middle East, but if such a road between Germany, Bulgaria, Turkey, and Iran through China is established, then we can reclaim those territories, and the unpredictability in Russia's next move. The challenges are geopolitical, different countries, economic belt will shift to the east with unpredictable consequences, and the risks are conflicts with Russia and China's intentions. Thank you very much.
Can you go back? I think I have a question again. My question was, which, you mean established company in Kazakhstan? Which company do you mean? Is it a railway operating company or just a freight forwarding?
A logistic company. Yeah, it can be a joint venture with a company, logistic company in Kazakhstan, or a new stuff.
Okay, it's an interesting aspect because we are now in the process of establishing what has. So I wanted to know what exactly do you mean. Thank you. Thank you.
Now it's time for Romania to report Moldova, and then we will return to Poland.
Okay, so good afternoon. We are the Romanian case study team, and today we'll show you our solution for Deutsche Bahn Schenker's rail engagement in CIS solution. So, first, we thought about a few possible scenarios. The first one and the happiest one is that nothing happens, Russia just stagnates, and so Deutsche Bahn can continue their operations in peace and continue to grow. The second one, if the Russian political and economical relations deteriorate. And the third one, RZD begin to expand more aggressively than they already are doing. So the first thing we did was we looked at the map and we reached the conclusion that Russia is big. It is really, really big. It looks like the only way into Asia. But then we took a closer look, and then we found out that there is a possible gateway in Asia besides Russia, and that is Turkey. So why Turkey? Here on the flip chart, you have Turkey's imports and exports, which their delta is better than Russia's. And on the other side, we can see that Turkey's GDP growth is constantly better than Russia's. Then we looked at Turkey's infrastructure. Right now, their railway system looks like this, but we found a plan that for 2023, they're going to expand it to look like this, with high-speed lines going across Turkey, and will make it feasible for Turkey to be an alternative solution to Russia as far as transport to Asia goes. The implications to this will be that the distances from Europe to Asia will be similar to those through Russia. Then this method could be used as leverage as far as negotiations with Russia goes. improving relationships with Turkey. By this, we will improve relationships with the Middle East and the Far East, like Saudi Arabia for petrol or India for technology. The higher GDP than Russia means more business opportunities. Higher more than this population means that other branches of Deutsche Bank can join in, and the company's wealth will grow. And there's less legal restrictions while going to Turkey. Next, we found out that the Kremlin approved the project for the Bering Strait crossing tunnel to be built. This is a long-term opportunity that will mean that if Deutsche Bank pressures America, who is already in an economic pit, to in turn pressure Russia to approve and build this tunnel, and if Deutsche Bank could have an exclusivity contract with America for import from America to Europe or to Russia, Russia would be pressured, will be in between the hammer and the anvil to accept and give a better offer to Deutsche Bahn and improve relationships with Europe and in turn with Germany and Deutsche Bahn as a whole. Next, as a response to the RZT development in Europe, the only logical solution we found was to lobby. Basically, we'll ask for a governmental response to the monopolistic attitude of Russia so that we could give out the same conditions that they are giving out to European companies or to foreign investors, and basically force them into either renouncing their own policies or to be forced to act by their own policies in a foreign state. And now, while we we presented you these options, we do not endorse going through with all of them at once because it would instigate an armed response from Russia, we think, pressuring them on the long term and on the short term at the same time. So this was our presentation and our solutions. Thank you.
So basically, your first step would be like the most important measure would be what to start off with?
The most important measure was, thinking about it, the worst case scenario and the first thing that would come to mind would be Russia becoming unviable to trade with and discuss with. That's why the first step would be to prepare a network to go to change Russia as an exchange to Asia with Turkey and use that way.
So that is what you think is the most possible scenario you're going to.
The most logical, because we have Saudi Arabia closer, you have India, you have opportunities for the other Deutsche Bank branches, and you can establish other trade routes. It will be a trade-off, basically. One thing for another. Maybe that other thing could be possibly even more efficient or valuable.
And the business potential that lies into Russia, you would just let it go?
No, but if that business potential would be hindered by the government, then it wouldn't be feasible anymore. That's what we thought, and that's why we considered the first scenario that nothing happened. The government would stagnate and the situation would remain as it is. It would not deteriorate. So things would just go on like they are now, or even better, considering that there won't be any setbacks.
Thank you.
So now it's time for Poland and then for Central.
Dear jury, guests, organizers, participants, my name is Marek, and together with my friends Łukasz, Jarek, and Paweł, we live in Poland. And on behalf of my team, I would like to represent our solution to the further development of RG Deutsche Bahn Schenker Rail. And during this short presentation, we'll go through the risk analysis of whether to invest in Russia or not. Then we'll move to our strategy, followed by SWOT analysis and a short summary. Shall we move on? Investments in Russia. As can be seen, it is followed by a series of risks, both of low and high impact, but not investing in Russia is followed by 55 out of 25 points risk of losing a huge market. And we strongly believe that it is not economically justified to go the safe way to retreat from Russia and focus on Europe and Far East only. So, move on. Since this is a sad example of our city where we are from, it was once it was a very prosperous city, which wealth was from textile trade with Russia, but then after a political decision, all the factories were bankrupt, and we're losing 100,000 people every two years. So the strategy. We decided to go in multiple ways at the same time. Even in the worst case scenario we considered, a war, Deutsche Bahn is a company after all, it's supposed to make profit, so we'll make profit out of supplying troops at the front line. But in the peace times, which we suppose that will come, we'll still move towards Russia. However, investing more in mobiliarities instead of immobiliarities, just in case. And at the same time, we'll try to find partners in China and in Kazakhstan, and more stable partners without that complicated political situation. All at the same time, to counteract aggressive Chinese Russian railway expansion in Europe, we strongly recommend three means. First of all, to launch an advertising campaign stating that Eastern, meaning Asian goods are of proper quality, since we are not in Asia, in Europe anymore, we are in Euro-Asia in the 21st century. Then we would like to provide Deutsche Bahn partners with a complex service regarding import, not only transportation, but all the legal matters, etc. Together with launching a new daughter company, which will buy goods on our behalf in the Far East, import them, and then sell them in Europe as a Deutsche Bahn daughter company, not as a separate body. Wait a second. One more thing, we should be active in Eastern Europe, because in 2014-2020 perspective, there's about 4 billion euros for railway infrastructure improvement, for instance, in Poland. The strength of our idea is exploiting the opportunities, not leaving any way blocked, going in multi directions at the same time. We still have a way to Asia opened, and Russian participation in World Trade Organization, which eases the bureaucracy. The weaknesses, it's difficult market, we get bad publicity for trading with Russia. We're a bit dependent on this country with a lot of bureaucracy. We lose a good image only a bit, and this ambiguity of the Russian law might be a bit of an obstacle. However, the great opportunity is the 2018 World Cup in Russia, which will bring a huge boost for the economy. They will have to import lots of goods, for instance, construction materials, which will provide them with. And the threats are political influences from all the sides, US, EU, and the Russian government, and the corruption behind the eastern border. We strongly believe that's a complex and full solution that can provide Deutsche Bahn with the best reaction to the modern world. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
I have a question, maybe I didn't understand. You propose selling DB Schenker rail washing machines in Europe?
Oh, I think I completely misunderstood you. You said you would source products in China, transport them, and then sell them in Europe. Is your proposal that we should become a retailer and market our own products?
Yes, that was basically the idea. Not specifically dishwashers or washing machines, but yes, we believe that's the new direction for Deutsche Bahn to open new markets and new opportunities.
But how does that link to the question about our strategic approach in the CIS country? How does that actually come to the question of the task force, like finding a strategic approach in terms of like the Russian world?
Yes, I know, but as we checked online, the Russian railway is a bit bigger with a bigger revenue company than Deutsche Bahn Schenker Rail itself. So we have to provide customers with different services, complex services, sometimes not closely related to the transportation itself, to gain their trust and bind them to the company itself. Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure to be here in Riga with all of you and participate in this competition.
So now it's better central game. One.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, the jury, please let's introduce our team. We are a team from the Slovak University of Technology, and please let us introduce also our strategy as well. So, just for introduction, we can say something with accessibility. I think that the accessibility between the countries, and it's very important today. It's going to be even more important in the future. And when we're thinking about our solution, our strategy, we came up with some aspects which are very important for us and for our solution as well. It's, for example, the less countries we have to cross with the railway, then the less problems there are. I think maybe from the boundary customs point of view. The second aspect, for example, is today we can see a huge growth in countries, and it's also very important fact and aspect in our solution. Now, Samuel will tell you something about strategy.
So, first of all, let's take a look at the global aspect of the situation. You know, we have the Ukraine crisis, so we have to think about it from different lens. Actually, all the local problems on the part of the country, which is poor at the moment. So, the market is still open in Russia, it's still trading with them, so let's use it, let's make the best of it. Also, Russia is very dependent, I think, on Europe. They need cars, they need to sell stuff, there's obviously some businesses here, so yeah, we need them and they need us. Okay, so this is the actual plan we came up with. It is the expansion of the White Gauge railway to Central Europe, actually. We're planning to cooperate with all the countries mentioned here, actually, and the companies which are present in the countries. So, in general idea, it would mean that that will be a railway constructed. Then you won't have to spend much money to actually transport goods from, Ukraine or Russia. Also, this can lead to expansion of Deutsche Bahn in Slovakia. Because, for example, you could actually, I think, it would be nice to get all cargo companies Yeah, and we want to make Vienna a hub for distribution of stuff, so you can actually have a lot of tracks going on there and just distributing everything around Europe, because you know it's really in the center. Yeah. So the problem is that actually we don't have any transshipments going on, so it will be fast, it will be cheaper. Yeah, and what we want to do is actually to bring Russia closer to Europe, and it's not a 20th century, so I don't think even the German government is against the help of Russians. I think they want to cooperate more. So we want to do that by being Russian here. And actually, if you take a look at the map, Slovakia, there's a lot of cars. So if you want to sell some cars to Russia and transport them, you can actually do that by our means. How it comes in, it's quite expensive. But there's the possibility of provide the price to all other countries. Yeah, and there's the Ukraine thing, but that's like you can't really happen. Yeah, and it's the interest of the country as well. We actually have some lobby right now to actually make the government more interested in the project. Yes, okay, this is our other alternative we came up with. It actually was mentioned about five times before. But yeah, it's not dependent on Russia, it's very important stuff, and also we noticed that there are many countries which are developing really fast. It's like you have some ongoing construction in Serbia, there was some money spent to improve the quality of railroads. So yeah, you also won't have to break roads to get to the borders of Kazakhstan and Turkey. Okay, as you see, the countries are really big, so they have a lot of money flowing from them. So if you manage to get the way to them, so that would be actually really great potential to get more customers or get more potential export. Yeah, and this one.
As Michael already mentioned, there are more address about this solution, so there's a American directly belongs to China, and there is also a connection with this as well as the existing countries.
Can you go back? It's called Broaddeutsch project already started. Is it that what you recommend for DB to look more on this project or to become a part of this project?
Yeah, actually, I think the more people are in this project, they will get cheaper for the rest of them. And that's the benefits. If you do this, we could actually expand Slovakia to get the hold on the cargo, the transport of railroads.
So next is the Nordic one, and then it will be the term for Spain.
Hi, my name is Erica.
I'm Johanna.
I'm Gustav, and I'm Oliver.
And we're the Nordic case study team, and we've chosen to call the case Growth in an Unreliable World. So, first we're going to talk about the current situation, do a scenario analysis, present our solution, and in the end sum it all up for you. So, we did an analysis of the current situation using the Gestalt, and we chose to focus on the political aspect, the economical, the technological, and the legal aspect, because we thought those the most interesting. So, the political. The sanctions are, of course, to consider, and if they were to escalate, that is a real problem. And we also thought the decrease of the trade with Russia was a big problem. And then we looked at the technological aspect, because we thought that the time that is locked in the transition, like the potential time, is really interesting. And then finally we looked at the limitations and tools from the Russian legal system, because they affect DB a lot.
Alright, so we found 3 different potential future scenarios. The first one is a complete lockdown due to further sanctions put on Russia from the US and the EU. The second one is that the conflict stays as it is right now, and the third one is that the sanctions are removed in the near future. So let's start with the worst case scenario, a complete lockdown. So a complete lockdown would mean that DB would be unable to keep RCD as a relationship business partner, but it would also mean a change in the scene on the European market. It would mean a change in the scene on the European market. Because the company shares bought by RCD during the recent years will lose value, and if DB takes the chance to buy shares in these very companies, they could actually make profit from it and also gain market shares. So here we can have a look at some potential companies that are partly owned by RCD and might be interesting for DB in the future.
Okay, so let's look at the current situation. The problem for DB right now isn't the trade problem itself, it's the loss of revenue. So how can we create more revenue without going around the trade conflicts? Well, we have identified 3 drivers for revenue. It's trade, it's the profit made by trade, and the profit made by DB. So right now, the trade is going down. That will make the revenue go down. But if we can make one of those, or both of those go up, we can make the revenue go up, or even further up, we can make both go up. So let's begin with the first key, the increase of profit by trade. One way to increase this is to decrease the amount of time each transport takes. As we said in the Pistel before, the transloading time is an interesting area, especially with the newly launched UTLC cooperation. If we can use our relationship with RDC and their aggressive strategy to make a standardized solution about the transloading, we can cut the time it takes and we can use that time for other transports. If we look at the table here, we can see that if we can just cut 1 hour of every loading time, this is an example for your customer Volkswagen, then we can make more than 1,500 hours every year of free train time that we can use to increase the amount of transport in Russia.
Alright, to increase DB's market share of trade by train to and from Russia, we would like to engage in an aggressive price strategy. We know it would decrease profit in the short term. We believe that the economics of scale and the market growth would make up for that. Even though we have sanctions now, we believe that if they stay the same, these factors, strong growth in Asia and CIS, Russia joining WTO and deregulation would still lead to increased trade. So, if the sanction were to go down, we think we would have the same strategy, we would have even stronger payout from this strategy, and revenue go up. So, to sum up our proposal, these are the factors we would like to focus on. The UTLC, prepare for risk containment, for the lockdown, standardizing the system, transloading system, and mobilizing significant market shares. Thank you. I didn't, can you go back 1 or 2 slides? I didn't understand if you decrease your profit, how would that bring future prosperity?
So that's it, short term. If we lower the prices,
yeah,
we would, in the short term, we would probably make less money.
or maybe a loss, yeah, okay. So we offer a customer price of 100, which maybe our cost is 110, whatever.
Yeah.
So then the customer's paying 100, and then next year you're coming around, or in 2 years, and saying, well, actually now we need to charge 120. And the customer has other opportunities or other providers on the market. What do you think the customer will do?
You want to gain a bigger market share now to hopefully use economics of scale, hopefully going down in costs. And when we have a growing market as well, we hoped we could take that back. The thing we want to do is we want to use one of those drivers to increase the revenue, to take away the risk of having the trade complication. Because then it's no problem if the trade goes down, because if we can increase our revenue anyways, then the company will be safe, even if the trade complication is still there.
Yeah, so if we increase our market shares, we can probably sell bigger volumes and thus use economic of scale to turn over the revenues in the long-term perspective.
But as you said, if we had a cost of 120 and we sell it at, let's say, 110, then our competitors probably can't make the same thing for less money, hopefully if we're good at what we're doing. So it's not like because we sell it for 110, our other competitors can do the same thing for less than 110. You see where I'm going from?
I see where you're going, but yeah, I think the reality works different, because what you do is you destroy margins for all of us, for all the companies, because then all the companies will have to lower their margin and their prices as well. Then in the end you have a zero margin market where no customer like Volkswagen, they have such a big buying power, they will not be able to, or you will not be able to increase the prices ever again.
I suppose in an extreme situation like this, you have to weigh market shares against lower margins. And of course, lower margins is never desirable. You always want to expand your margins. But this is an extreme situation. You have a big threat to our, I think your percentage of trade with Russia is pretty big. So it's important to keep that within the company. So what we are suggesting is to lower the margins on the short term and then getting bigger market shares and getting bigger revenues in the long term perspective.
So I understand.
Yeah. Thank you.
So now let's start with Spain and then this is Paddy from Spain. I'm going to introduce my team. And Antonio.
Diana and Market.
David. We will present our solution. This is our index. And how we will get our targets? Well, our solution is going to support the association of the transeuropean districts. And in Spain, it will be then on target 2015 of the Emerging Union. As we all now see each country's GDP and growth, as inclusion, and we then so on to commercial relationships of this center with the countries, these countries and growing countries. As a result, there will be a more dynamic and flexible markets. How can we achieve these targets? We will purely trade with Russia, improve the open world trade, and increase intermodal transport.
our strategy is exposed to Russia into working as a situation. So we are going to establish a certain point with the Japan in this line as well, and we are going to develop another subgroup with China. So in this situation, we are going to broken the monopoly with China, and we can do pressure into the Russia policy. When we make these routes, they are very expensive, but we can close the cycle around the Russia and change the Russian policy. Because if these lines are working, Russia can change, can do anything with with the lines. And in this situation, Deutsche Bank will develop the train with a normal commerce situation.
So I'm going to detail you this. We are going to follow 3 steps. The first one is to maintain the area where historically Russian enterprises and enterprises from the rest of Europe has been coexisting. The second step is to establish an alternative way to commerce between China and Europe. And the third one is the settle point between Nepal and the North of Europe. So in that way, Russia will be surrounded and isolated, and it couldn't have another chance more than open its commerce.
Before this is Russia is agreed to apply fiscal and financial pressures, so Russia has been to be open to a free market. And in this map, you can see the different points they are going to use like air, maritime, and yeah. Our solution from this bank is possible to develop a better system to improve the relations with the rest of the group. So finally, we would like to thank you the chance of working in a real case from Sarasota.
Can you go back to one slide? Earth, you mean air, or what is this red circle?
Like
Oh, Earth or train, okay. Sorry, I didn't understand this slide. So you mean strategic points for train? This is like your long-term strategy, saying, let's say, the border of Argentina and Brazil to make the railway hub.
The most important thing now is the new situation with the Western Europe, because now you can develop the train travels.
These are the strategic points, and they are going to be which are going to be used in the future to the world commerce by train, by ship, or by plane.
For Divishenko or for world economy as a whole? Is that your proposal solution for us? Let's say invest in these points.
If you want to try to commerce in all over the world,
yeah,
you have to develop the network.
Thank you.
So now it's turn for the Italian team. Oh, yes. Sorry, guys, let's do a short break. Yes, you can do a 5-minute break. Okay? And the 5 minutes will be at the end of this. Right.
What do you think?
Dan wat ga ik gewoon voor jou
Scheißteile gleich abnehmen, wie das die Gesetze mal aussehen. Das ist völlig egal. Das ist auch kein Bock. Ja, aber wir haben die kleinen Anzeigen vorher.
Are you happy with it?
I don't really think that I feel like the core of the world is the same thing. Yeah, of course. You're a bit tired now, it's more hard, you know. So it's really fun. I love the way you work with your kids. Yeah, it's 4, 5, and 10 hours just to get down.
And it's also good in this way for the flash backgrounds.
So, economics market from building this study. Let's get it. So, why is US countries so important? Well, they have a high degree growth, they have key commodities, and moreover, they're strategic because they're between China, India, and European Union. And which are the problems we actually have to face? Well, geopolitical issues and tensions between, European countries and Russia, and the monopoly of Russian railways. It means that actually RSD is not just a big player in the Russian market, also someone to be friends, to be friend with. So let's get to this level analysis. So if you just focus on politics and economic and labor framework, in this case, authorities may be hindered or compromised during a conflict. Moreover, if you focus on Russia, on all the CIS countries, Russia's real GDP growth is definitely slowing, and at the same time, the inflation is galloping. This will actually affect the import-export ratio greatly during the next few years. And moreover, if we delay the labor framework of this analysis, we can also acknowledge actually the fact that India just stopped investments in infrastructure by foreign film and companies. So, the political scenario we'd like to move within is actually a political scenario where no war is going to happen. Actually, according to our assumptions, and probably what we wanted to cite with this article from the week, no one has both the economic power, willingness, and the public consensus to start war. I mean, probably the relationship will deteriorate, probably the commerce will get worse, but no war is going to happen. It's really important because this will allow actually trade routes not to be blockaded or blocked or hindered. So, let's talk about a couple of considerations about strategy. So, Russia on its own is strategical, not because of its economic importance, but at the same time, what we would like to really focus on is that actually Russia is a sort of crossroad to go to Eastern Asia. And another thing we'd like to mention is that actually RSD is aggressively attacking new markets, and yet it's a really strategic partner for DB. So, these are the main strategies that we'd like to further explore in our presentation. Let's get to the first one. So, we thought that first, probably if you have been, like the top player in China, the top player in Europe, if you really wanted to make business, by transporting goods from China to Europe, it would be a really good strategy, actually. But we noticed actually that in 2014, DHL signed a strategic partnership with our strategic partner, which is RSD. And in this case, so we said that probably the strategy should have been our one. What we actually suggest is not going for transnational transportation, or it's not compete with DHL transnational transportation, but let's go for internal logistics. I mean, if we can control internal logistics, we can definitely have a point in, transporting goods from one country to another. And actually, this scheme, this competition, based on Modigliani Slovenian model, will allow actually to cut the revenues of DHL actual monopoly in China transnational good transportation. And if we have a quick glance to this really synthetic SWOT analysis, as we can see, actually China's really market, so it's very possible to go for this kind of market. And at the same time, we should also consider the fact that actually DHL during last year had a lot of revenues. So we could actually think probably the possible retaliation from DHL. At the same time, it's really available and feasible strategy for DB, especially in the long term. And if you look at the second strategy, the second strategy actually involves investing in India. When we thought about the possibility of renovating the whole railway system, the trains and the station. Now the numbers, the figures here can be pretty impressive. But if we go to the next slide, actually we managed to find that probably the government of India is ready to co-finance actually investments on railways up to 50%. So if we look at the figures now, probably with a joint venture with RZ, which would allow us actually to make them, also slower their advancements in Europe, because they have to focus on India too. Well, this scheme, this actually strategy seems to be really available. And if you look at the last strategy, actually,
which is an all-important market share. Well, a lot of RTZ revenues come from such commodity, which is oil, fuel, chemicals. And they acquire more market share thanks to new transportation technology, maybe a combination of transportation technology or better contracts with regional importers. It is cutting prices. We can become not just a strategic power, but also a strategic asset as well. And this is something which we could actually leverage on in case of tensions and international conflicts, because we would be like the main player with oil between Russia and Europe. So thank you for your attention.
You mean increase your market share in oil in Russia or in Brazil?
Well, yeah. Well, actually, we received some data about the fact that actually EBEC has something which is less than 10% of the oil which is transported by train between Russia and European countries. And actually 20% is of course a good market share, but probably not so important to be a factor on which we may leverage. And so what we were referring here was the possibility of actually having more control and so to create some kind of dependency in the import and export of more import actually from Russia to Europe of oil and fuels.
In the transport share or in producing?
And transport share.
Okay, but then we rely more on RGD because they have a monopoly in Russia, right? So this will help us make us more dependent on Russia.
Power and dependency, and we gain some more power and dependency. I mean, it's actually easier for SD to make some kind of regulation than simply to go to free market because, as you said, actually it's a firm that works on the monopolies in Russia. But at the same time, if they have developed some kind of long-term relationship with the firm, which is Deutsche Bank in this case, we may expect a special increase of tensions or conflicts, which are likely to arise probably in the next few years, especially tensions, to have some competitive advantage, especially for the relationship kind of thing between the two firms. I mean, probably the renegotiating prices, it's well actually the capability of not having to recontract prices or just to have better relationships over time is some kind of brand for equity.
Thank you.
So guys, now it's time for the RPA and then for the public sponsor.
So, hello from our side. We're Team Alpe from Austria. Our team consists of Katharina, Bettina, Philip, and me, Marcus. And we're going to talk about DB Schenker Rail's engagement in the CIS countries. As a quick overview, we mainly were focusing on creative strategies for these two main issues that were coming up in the case study. The one issue is what should DB Schenker Rail do towards the ICT's expansion towards Europe. And what other strategies, on the other hand, that DB Schenker Rail could do towards the developing situation in Russia. Will it get better? Will it get worse? What can be done? And in the end, we also present a few longer-term strategies, so a bit further beyond the 5 years limit, what could be done in the future to not have these problems again. So, if you have a competitor in a market, what can you do? You have, in essence, 3 options. You can, on one hand, you can ignore the competitor because maybe it's insignificant at all, and you don't need to care about it. On the other hand, you could try to take more offensive measures, like retaliating, trying to be more aggressive towards this competitor, or you could also be a bit more passive and just move out of the market or do some evasive strategies. We do not propose to ignore RCP, because they are really a big power. They seem to be very focused on gaining market share in Europe, and this cannot be just simply ignored or will go away by itself. A few strategies how to retaliate against them is, for example, if there are business units in Deutsche Bahn which are not performing as well as they should, or that you anyways wanted to sell, you could try to already sell them to RCP, so you actually gain money from selling your bad business units. Another possibility or another strategy that you need to be really aware of is you need to be ready for expansion. So they are expanding, you need to expand too. So, for example, you should start building cash reserves for takeovers, get your business also ready to take into consideration that you will take in new companies. If there is a case of sanctions against Russia or against RCP, you also have the opportunity to move into this market, get market share back from them that they already achieved in Europe. Evasive strategies, on the other hand, could be, for example, a divide and conquer approach, where you would cooperate with some new subsidies of RCP in Europe, but not with others. So they themselves also have this kind of hard task to find out, okay, in which market are you now cooperating, in which markets are you now competitor? And they have to struggle additionally to their own strategies on including these companies. Another opportunity would be actually to join them. So, well, there is an opportunity to just say, okay, Deutsche Bahn does not need to be in Germany focused anyways. So you are already based in Russia, at least with a few offices. Maybe it would make sense to even join RCP. So we artist rendition on how it should look like. To if DB Schenker moves maybe to Russia. This could be a strategic move to provoke a reaction. This could also be a strategic move to really move to Russia.
Focusing on now what can the company actually do in Russia. So if you do not want to be that dependent on the country itself, search for other cooperation partners. For example, make China your main cooperation partner and let them deal with Russia, so to say. The point is then you're again more dependent on China and you're somehow forced to accept their terms, more or less, meaning you would more or less trade one dependency for another. If you have to or want to avoid Russia in total, you can go for the southern corridor. There's an option China is looking into right now. They want to be finished actually linking Europe and China by 2025. So if you would like to invest in that region, it's highly recommended that you look into developing infrastructure in the Balkan region, especially RCP is already investing in Serbia and so on. So if this opportunity is gone, then mainly the southern option for you is gone. Number two is thanks to global warming, going through the Arctic to North America, but that would involve ships, so maybe not the option for a rail company. So to reduce risk in Russia, it's logging again and alternative means of transportation like trucks for short-term solutions if they're just short-term sanctions. So for the longer strategies, again, the point is, do you want to go to Russia or through Russia? So this is the main strategic decision for the company. Is it the target market? And if you can lose it, then lose it. And in the very end, develop technology and infrastructure, because this is where you can get the competitive edge. Because infrastructure can be bought, but if you have the technology to faster load and unload, and maybe take 1 day, 2 days less to transport things to China, then this would be your advantage in negotiations and business deals. Thank you very much for your attention, and we're looking forward to your questions. Yes, so this would, we mean that this is also an opportunity. If the market develops to be more liberal, then of course it would make sense to make a company owned by.
Maybe we can hear the question first.
It was right direction, of course, but it means railway operating company. It means a railway company which is buying the trucks, which is having own vehicles and wagons. That's what we mean by this?
Yes, as right now, as I said,
off the market. Okay, that is the question.
if they are becoming competitors in Europe, so you become competitors in Russia.
But if they
Exactly,
Yeah,
if they open
yeah.
So also not short-term strategy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so now it's turn on Fortification and then about it.
Good afternoon, Sri. Good afternoon, friends. Today we have a task of engagement of the Czech rates in the future. And we know that EB is really big. It's so big and working so good, and they're like on fire. They're #2 player worldwide, and I think there are many solutions how we can solve this problem while being so big. So at the beginning, we will speak about level of restrictions. Let's say we have hard restriction and medium restrictions, and later on we will speak when we have no restrictions and we are working together in a very individual. So at the beginning, I would like to speak about the worst scenario. In the short term, it's really hard to be when it's worst scenario, so we need to be faster and be in front of the restrictions. And we should arrange some meetings with companies and tell to them that they should import goods from Europe, which are essential for the business, in higher quantity, to store it in warehouses and don't start their business. Maybe in this way we can earn a little bit of money in short time and wait for good times to come. And in long term, it's really hard to build a relationship with Russia. It's almost impossible because it's restricted. Almost everything is forbidden. So we need to build a relationship with Middle and Far East countries, including developing Asia. And it's one of the most growing regions. So we can have like two ways how to go to Far East and Middle East. If it's not forbidden to go through borders, we can go by train to Russia, and then we can take our trucks to be dependable from their business. And the other way is to go to Turkey or take water transport.
Okay, let's imagine now the scenario with not so violent restrictions. So, in our opinion, the company should execute promotion, and nowadays market is one of the most effective way to achieve company's goals. So, we would like to say that you should keep contracts with the old partners and also look forward to the new ones. And what is more, lobbying is a very effective way to improve companies' goodness. So what you basically need just some reliable people who will make you will make them good politicians. So then will make you good political and legal decisions for the company and for the area where you want to strengthen your position.
But you generated the idea that it would be possible to create a partnership alliance between major railway companies in Russia and Europe. And the concept of the partnership in Europe, all the airline companies have partnerships that calls Star Airlines, and I think it will be possible to create like railway airlines.
And we think that it would be a good idea to to make them dependable from us. So we can lend them the wagons or our trucks and our things so that they will be dependable and we can manipulate them.
Okay, so that was our general ideas. To analyze the team, of course, we're developing a project, but we want to keep an eye on that thing that today Russia just stopped a few
kind of goods from Europe to the rest of Russia. And an idea would be to try to find the ways how to help smaller companies. Like you cannot sell your, you cannot take your goods and go to Russia. Smaller companies will be very active. They have become very active, and our solution would be to use multimodal terminals like this one.
So these are just main aspects we would like to resume about business and economics, also in politics case, extra way to solve.
We were talking about the strategic alliance, and I have two questions on that. What would the benefits of a strategic alliance be, and why would RGB join this alliance?
Maybe we can blend in our locomotives and values, make them easier in the beginning, but also in this way we can activate them, and if we like stop doing something for them, it will be like guided for their business. And we are engineers, so I think that making an alliance and making them dependable is a good idea. But how to do it like fully, I cannot say.
And why would they join?
You should provide them why, because like you are a big company and you are working together in Russia. So maybe if you use the same things while you work in Russia to work, that would be
So now it's very important. And Belarus will be the last piece. We're the Mountain team. This is Philip, Christina, Nicola, and I'm Sasha. Okay, so as you always know, the current political situation in Russia is uninviting for other foreign investors because of the Crimea situation. On the other hand, the economical prosperity of Russia is pretty big. It is the 11th world's largest economical force, which means that there are big investors in Russia which are interested in investing in Europe. On the legal part, it's not part of the UI, which means there are legal restrictions. And the problem that we were trying to solve today is to help Deutsche Bank maintain or improve the business relations with Russia.
What we suggest, make friends of your competitors. So shake your hand with Russian railways. Firstly, ask yourself what does Russia want and how are we going to help them. In the end, the benefits must be on your side. We know that regarding the first question, we know that Russia has big economical appetites, especially when it comes about Europe. So what we should do? We should give our partner a hand and help them expand, to support their ideas and to include in our plans. By helping others, like Russian railways, we are helping ourselves by building partnerships, expanding our markets, and by signing agreements and guarantees.
So, on the other hand,
you already know actually that Russian railways do an over-construction of their railways, and that means that as a matter of fact, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development has already invested more than 1.6 billion dollars in the Russian railway system, which means that we can, even with the backing up of the Russian legal and federal budgets, it is clear that the Russian railways won't be able to actually to cover all these costs. So what's our proposition? One of the Russia's answers actually is to do an is to open up for foreign investment, which means that our proposal is to join with your other competitors, companies from the region, of course, from Europe, so that you can invest in Russia's railways and improve them. And which way you could do that? You could, for example, join together with the third company, which is I think Yanamaga, and that way you will remain on the second, maybe go to the first. That's the point actually, to go to the first place without losing anything. The advantages will be that you will gain favors with the competition and that will promote international collaboration. This is more of a long-term solution. This is we call it creating the 1520 space. Actually, Russian rails are smaller than European and Chinese. We have a standard of 1435 millimeter versus the Russians of 1520 millimeters rails. The difference in these gauges slows down the speed of the route between Europe and China, and actually the cargo has to be transferred to another train at the national border. Deutsche Bahn can use this influence to promote and invest into this 1520 space. Next slide, please. We also thought that you should lower the media pressure, so you can do that by TV and radio commercials about Deutsche Bahn, and that's how you will create a positive vibes about the business that is happening in Russia. And you could also publish some articles about Deutsche Bahn, and you could do that in the Railway Pro magazine. And also lobbying for railway business is a good idea. So we suggest to lobby for an efficient and competitive railway transport, connecting the industry to the linguistic and political factors. So we will, and also we are suggesting you to establish more companies like the one you already have, the General Agency of Deutsche Bahn. So, as a conclusion, we have a positive outlook and the slowing factors. The positive outlook is that we have market growth, we have a trade and transactions that will become more transparent, and we have also new business opportunities. On the other hand, there are these transition periods. Some procedures will be difficult to change, and because Russia is a large country with different cultures, there are different working methods, we might need to be walking away from the old facts. Thank you.
I didn't understand why I would invest in Russian infrastructure and rail infrastructure. What possible benefit could I have?
Yes, so we thought a lot about it. The idea behind it was by investing in Russia's railroads, you will actually force them to invest in Europe, actually to maintain your relationship with Deutsche Bahn and Russia's railroads because of your investment. Actually, you're helping them, and that way they will know. Oh, okay, Deutsche Bahn helped us, so maybe we should do a partnership with them. We should make some sort of an agreement which will last for 5 years or so, so that you will help. But you're not doing it yourself. You're doing it with your competition, and that way you will actually not lose so much, but gain, because Russia is of interest for you, of course.
So I would do it together with my competition, so I'm not really separating myself from the competition.
You're doing it with the...
So why would the RGD then be more favorable to Timoshenko and not to the others?
Maybe you can do it like 80 to 20% with your competition, and you're doing it with your lower competition. If you're in the second place, right, at the moment, so you can do it with once at the third, fourth, fifth place. That way you're staying at the second and moving towards the first place and the competition because of this percentage difference, 8 to 20.
we are leaving them on the places where they currently are.
I think in the end, Russia will have a shiny new railway system, which they will just use for all kinds of transports, either by themselves or
Russia is always
we gain nothing.
Yeah, but Russia is anyway reconstructing their railway system. What's the matter? In fact, this way you're just forcing them to use you as a transport system for Europe or something, because they're using this 1520 railroad system, which means that at the borderline they're changing the cargo and they're moving it into Deutsche Bahn's trains, right? So this way you're just forcing them to use you and not use anybody else, for example. I don't know if you got me right, but I think I understand. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So thank you for the last presentation. It's very good. And it's also the last presentation of the 2014 edition. So nice. Retreat, fix, and fortify. That's it. My name is Nikki. Good afternoon. I will be presenting on behalf of the visionaries, and I hope I don't bore you. I will start with how we analyzed the problem from the information that we got, the alternative strategies that we considered, our main solution, and then on to the risk analysis of our main solution. First problem we think, well, everything is generated from the current political situation in Russia. Well, these are the three things that we got for the Deutsche Bahn is problem with the image. If you continue trade with the Russian company, you will gain bad publicity. There's decreased trade with Russia because of a lack of trust. And you might also have decreased bargaining power within Europe because they are expanding. The alternative strategies that we proposed, that we thought of. Well, invest in Ukraine. Try to balance out the equation, get your public image better. No. The political situation is too unstable for that. Number two, build an alternative route to Asia. Well, could be, but it's not a cost efficient. Last one, focus on Europe instead of Russia. Yeah, also, no. It's too much. There's too much in Russia to gain. So, the solution we propose is based on three different points. Tactical retreat, it's to improve the image. A Pincer investment, we invest indirectly in Russian trade, and European fortification. I will explain further. The tactical retreat is that we suspend several small projects within Russia to show to the outside that we are dealing less and less with Russia while maintaining our most important business projects. So that way you show to the outside, through the media, that you are helping your image while you maintain your own business. Second point, Pincer Investment. We invest in the following countries around Russia. In addition, we have, you already have plans to invest in the Baltic areas and around it, and we call it Pincer Investment because it somewhat makes the shape of a pincer. Now, what does this do? We develop regional trade routes to promising markets, for example, in Asia and also to the eastern of Europe. We also provide opportunities for improved trade to Russia in the case that what we expect to be coming in the future is that political stability will return, and then you already have a network to resume trade to Russia. The third one, positive message to your partners. You indicate that you would like to continue trading with them, being partners in and around Russia, and you will also have long-term investment for European to Asian trade. Third point, European fortification. This is related to the bargaining power. These are the areas that are now highly influenced by the Russians. In blue, this is the Ukraine. Well, we suppose that due to political reasons, they won't be passing through Ukraine. And what we propose to do is fortify the position of the Deutsche Bahn in these areas, so that if they want to link Russia with the positions they're strong in, they would have to be dependent on you. They would move through your area, and that's why you increase your bargaining power. A risk analysis. So some events that may occur. War with Russia, we consider it highly unlikely, but the impact is of course very high. Because of the additional infrastructure that you build, the fortification of Europe, we can focus on the eastern part of Europe. In case of a war, there will be a lot of transport required to go to the eastern of Europe, and you are also very good in logistics. The second event is more likely. The Russians are blacklisted. What happens is that the image will decrease and it will be more difficult to deal with them. However, we feel that the impact is low if you still consider the same strategy of the tactical retreat. With the partial embargo on Russia, the same focus can be done on the Eastern Europe, where we expand our markets. And in case of a complete embargo on Russia, we can invest in a second route to Asia, which can be seen here. I'm running out of time, but thank you for listening. And if there are any questions, I would kindly invite you to answer.
You were mentioning also to invest in projects which are not as strategic in order to push our reputation. I think it was on one of the first levels.
Not invest, but suspending them. So let's say you have some operations running or projects that you want to implement in Russia, that you suspend them and you say that you won't continue with them for now until political stability returns, and then you can continue with them. But it's just to show that you are, to show to the public image that you are actually retreating from Russia.
Okay, guys, so that's it. We finished all the tasks. I'll be there. Tomorrow we will not talk with us. I would also like to ask for an applause for Abu Dhabi. Just that if you want to go to presentation to design, I think that they're still working on it. But please be quiet because there's no Before you go, we will give you a good feedback tomorrow morning. We have 10-15 minutes, but just want to say thank you in this room because I think tomorrow is going to be lots and lots of people. So we asked you to be creative, and you've done this. You surprised us with a lot of things. I noticed a few things also for the more detailed feedback we'll give you tomorrow when we announce the winner and so forth. But I'm quite exhausted, and I've just been sitting and answering questions, and you've all been working, so I guess you must be super tired and ready that the day is over. So enjoy your evening, and thank you very much for your input. There was a lot of valuable stuff in there which we'll take home and discuss internally. Just wanted to let you know that, and have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. That's fine, yeah. Just scan
think we all have to
Thank you.
number
It's
one.
really fun.
We have also do we get feedback about the case study was how
Yes, there will be some evaluation form to the participants afterwards, where the task will be quite an important part of it, as after all that's the main thing of the competition. And we will share with you afterwards.
Email like last year, I think.
Yes.
And also obviously the presentations, right? You will email us.
Yes, yes.
Like the link from Dropbox.
Yes.
That'd be nice too.
Probably the easiest way to do it, not to overload the box.
All right, so we see you for lunch, for dinner. You've given me the address, 8 o'clock.
Yes. There might be that we need you to sign some documents. We have this competition information forms that will be given to this Victor. Do you know anything about the SIPs? The SIP, course information, no, competition information form. You know anything about it?
Can we talk outside?
We can talk outside.
Boiling.
Let's go outside.
It's so hot in here.
That was the explanation.
What happened to the air conditioner? It was nice and cold.
I don't know. It's lovely.
Are you able to stand up?
By the way,
no,
that show is still on. There's
There's
94 minutes left.
Es geht vor allem immer so schnell.
Ja.
Starten zu beginnen.
Manche waren einfach zu schnell. Bei den Ukrainer haben also gar nicht mehr jemand verstanden.
Ich habe auch.
Die Italiener waren auch zu schnell.
Ja, wir haben ja auch vorher gesagt.
Before you leave, I will just therefore get nach Hause listen to these. Well, what is it?
No.